Hey, hey,
Hey,
hey.
hey, Skiba News Nation family, we got a live for you. What are we going to be talking about today, Jake?
Oh, today we're going to be talking a little bit about the JFK files that are coming out. We're going to start right off with that because I know you're excited about that, Jeremiah. We're
Very,
also going to
very.
be talking about the Panama Canal and the possible invasion that's going to happen to make sure Trump makes good on his word, as well as other stirrings over in the Middle East and AI warfare. And a creepy video I found that sounds like AI is like, I've been trapped in a box and I don't like it. So a whole bunch of different areas. Hopefully this will alleviate some of the time constraints of our Friday episode because there's so many news stories that come out during the week. It's like juggling a bunch of balls. And just because we only have so much time, you can't cover every topic. So we're trying this live experiment to be able to cover interesting stories that we like during the week. And that way we can kind of, keep up a little bit better.
Yep. Sounds fun, man.
Well, before we get into it, I think this is a great opportunity. We could talk a little bit about TrutherCon. While we wait for people to join in, Jeremiah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what TrutherCon is.
Well, my mom and dad both had this vision of having a big conference or convention. And me and you talked about it a little bit when we were in Panama City Beach, Panama, no, Florida. But we had talked about it and we got a great team around us. And we're aiming to be the biggest truther convention on this flat world. So if you guys want to be a part of it, go to truthercon.com and make sure you click stay notified so we know how many people to plan for. It's going to be freaking epic, dude.
Oh, yeah. And if you guys don't believe the earth is flat, and you believe in a lot of other conspiracies, you're still going to be more than welcome to show up. So make sure, once again, to go over to truthercon.com and sign up for news alerts and updates as we update the speaker list and analyze the venue. You're definitely going to want to jump on there early because we're going to have some perks for people that sign up in advance and a lot of exciting news coming forward as we put the whole thing together. So truthercon.com.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that about it's not just flat earth. It's every conspiracy. Like anything that you could think of, everybody's invited. It's going to be one big party. It's going to be awesome. So
Sweet. Well, we have a whole bunch of interesting news that we should probably go ahead and bust into. And as you guys join, if you want to drop some comments over in the live chat, share this out with any friends or family you want to interact on these topics with. Once again, we're going to kick it off with the interesting topic of the JFK files that are soon to be released as of today. Now, this is what came out yesterday in the report that Donald Trump made for the whole world, that his administration is about to release the long-awaited JFK files. Here we go.
We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow. We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow.
All right, so apparently 80,000 documents. What do you think we're going to find in these declassified JFK files?
I think we're going to find a lot, man. I saw a Tucker Carlson, like when he was with Fox News, he said that he knew somebody that had direct access to the files. And he said, if you knew what I knew, you would have no faith in the government. Like this, you would know that this whole system that we have is a lie, which, I mean, that's pretty big. I mean, I personally, I mean, you guys know my thoughts about where the, fatal shot came from, but just finding out who the players were is going to be very interesting. I think it's LBJ, but that's just my personal opinion, allegedly. But
Now, Opa, you were there during the parade in a different part of Dallas. Could you talk a little bit about the memory of like that whole experience?
Well, I was down a few blocks on the parade route before they made the turn to go into where he was shot. And I was just sort of sitting on the side of, or not sitting, but standing on the side of the road, a couple of rows back. And I saw them pass by, waved at them. Of course, they didn't wave back at me, but and then later I didn't hear any shots or anything like that, but I heard all of a sudden people started talking about it. It was just kind of like a big wave of people talking and crying and screaming and stuff like that.
Wow. Now, I have to ask before we move on from this segment, Opa, if the truth that the government had orchestrated this assassination through the CIA had come out at that time, how do you think the landscape of America would have changed? Like, would there have been like a civil war? Would people have been riot? Like, what would have happened if they found out that the government had just taken JFK out?
Well, I think that maybe things would definitely have been different, but I think that altogether the public would have finally had closure and accepted it. The fact that they've taken so long to drag this thing out, I think did more harm than if they would have come clean right at the beginning.
they pretty much fueled conspiracy. I mean, pretty much.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when Trump says that they're releasing all of the documents, 80,000 pages or whatever, I can't believe that some departments, CIA, FBI, whatever, hasn't shredded a bunch or have hidden some that we may never ever see. And we're only going to see what's not shredded or hidden.
Well
That's just
put.
my belief.
Yeah, that reminds me of this same situation with the Epstein Island documents and all the stuff that they're talking about releasing regarding Epstein. And supposedly, after the request was put in by the Trump administration, they started, against command, burning and destroying documents. And yet, I can't help but to think that they probably started this process back when Donald Trump actually won the presidential race in November. I can't imagine that they've been holding off until, like last month to start actually burning documents and hiding things. And so that's a good point. We may never know the full truth, but they better have something juicy in there.
I think that the shredding or burning or hiding documents happened even long before Trump. But not, I'm sure that they, after every presidential election, they go through and try to figure out what else they need to hide or shred.
You know what my mom used to believe? She used to believe that whoever became president, they would show them the Zapruder film, the full thing, and it would like just freak them out so much that they wouldn't release or they wouldn't, do certain things that Kennedy was doing at the time. So we shall see.
Yeah, there's that. For those of you who are aware of this, and those of you who aren't, you should go look it up. There's a picture of the Illuminati playing card that came out in the 1990s, and it looks like basically Donald Trump on the on the playing card, and he's got like the same face he made when he said, fight, 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 and it says underneath it, "Our snipers anywhere at any time can take you out." And so like the concept that the powers that be that actually are pulling the strings, that are prohibiting the full release of all this information that Trump had promised before he became president, is very, very interesting. Here you go. And so anyways, to move on from that topic, let's go ahead and check out this next story here. Now, this is the topic of the invasion of Panama.
Please go to theallshowstore.com. We have the great atomic defense, the strongest, greatest, concentrated of all the known herbs and compounds to boost your immune system.
We have a little Alex Jones commercial there.
One of Trump's close advisors a couple hours ago. I mean, I think we're going for the canal, bottom line. And I think we should, bottom line, right? Skip past everything and just get to the bottom line. I think we should, and I think we will. And a couple of months ago, I published, if we're going to do something, might be around, say, 14th of March, right? Or one of these full moons or a new moon, either when it's dark or when it's bright. So when I'm thinking in a war mind, I'm always paying attention to the moon. The moon affects operations greatly, and I've written about this many times over the years when I was in wars. And so
I thought this was fascinating.
Saturday night, the full moon was still like 98% illumination. I'm like, it could be a good night. And then the lights went out, right? Because the explosion. So the lights went out over most of Panama, actually. And then, the hotels and whatnot, their generators kicked in. And Panamanians immediately that were still online because, their phones were working, were like, hey, the Americans are invading. And I thought, well, let's watch. I didn't see any flashes of light. Nobody was messaging me and not invade. I don't know what that was about. Obviously, it was something, and maybe it was a coincidence, maybe not. But if we do something militarily, it'll probably be on a dark moon or a bright moon. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Now, at this point, all the compass needles to me are pointing towards military invasion. That's the way it looks at this time. Even without the canal, this is strategically important to the United States. Very important. We were, and I was going somewhere with what I was saying earlier. People have projected power from here since 1510. I mean, Balboa started the first town of Westerners in any of the Americas. I'm not talking about Dominican Republic, but not on an island, but on one of the mainlands. It was in the Darien. It's called Santa Maria La Antigua del Darien. The Santa Maria, bottom line is the first settlement of Europeans in the mainland Americas was 1510 in the Darien, because this is so important. And then in 1524, the Indians had wiped them out, and the Spanish left there. But since that time, people have tried to build a path between the seas. That's why Scotland got absorbed. They tried to build a path between the seas in 1698, 99. Finally, 2,000 Scottish dead later. They tried to make a path across the Darien. 2,000 Scottish dead later. They went bankrupt. And then in the Articles of Union, 1607.
And let's explain why people will get on wooden ships from Spain and Portugal and Scotland and England and everywhere, because they could look at a map and say, you control that, you control all of this.
Oh, yeah. And when Balboa got on top of the hill and spotted the South Sea, is what we call the Pacific, because actually the long axis of Panama is mostly east-west, not north-south. A lot of Americans have it in our head that it's north-south. But actually, the canal runs mostly north-south, not east-west, right? Anyway, not to go into that.
Sure, it goes boom, boom, yeah.
Yeah, but the bottom line is when the Scottish came, they went bankrupt, and that's how they got absorbed into the United Kingdom in 1707. That is why Scotland is now serving a different crown.
So this is just like Napoleon fell attacking Russia and Germany fell attacking Russia. There's these key spots in history that just keep coming back.
This is it, Alex. This is key as it gets. I've told Trump's team this, like, I don't know, every 48 hours since he was elected to inauguration until this morning. I keep saying, until you take out the United Nations, and you've talked about this for years, Alex, until you take out the United Nations, we're not serious. We're not serious until we take those guys out. If we invade Panama, we need to take Ciudad de Saber back, which is former Fort Clayton. We need to get the United Nations out of there because they've taken that place over. They've taken our old U.S. Army South headquarters, and it's now United Nations headquarters.
And again, where is it? Right there in Panama.
Yeah, because this is such a strategic, without the canal, this would still be the place you would logically put your headquarters to influence the whole region.
We'll say it again.
This
We
is
say it's China, but really at the end of the day, they're just the muscle. It's the globalists. It's the UN.
Oh, United Nations. We got to take them out big time.
The government fears Alex Jones, who has the large.
Looks like they're going for the same haircut, but yeah, man, very interesting. And in regards to this topic of the UN, I want to read this about Canada's export to the U.S. I didn't know Pornhub was a Canadian export. This means Canada is worse than Mexico as far as being complicit in encouraging addiction in the U.S. and contributing to human trafficking. According to AmericanAddictionCenters.org, about 12% of Americans are addicted to illegal drugs. 14% of Americans are addicted to porn. 20% of Americans use illegal drugs. 60% of Americans use porn. And drug cartels are estimated to make about $19 billion through human trafficking, while Pornhub is a $98 billion human, monetary benefit. But I thought this was hilarious, this meme. If you continue tariffs against us, we will cut off access to Pornhub. Your terms are acceptable, So, of course, the reason I'm caveating over, taking this off ramp in regards to the UN is you'll see that there's this this vitriol from United Nations turning against the U.S. and one of the most recent ones that was just hilarious to me was Canada threatening to stop shoveling porn down to the U.S. And this goes to another topic. Let me just find here. Here, while I search this, guys, what do you think about the Panama Canal and this topic of the U.S. possibly invading Panama that Alex Jones had a guest on talking about?
Opa knows more than I do about it.
Well, I remember when Jimmy Carter signed it over to Panama, and I was just a teenager at the time, but still, I thought at the time that was the stupidest thing that we could have done, because again, I didn't think about national security or anything like that, but to give away or provide Panama the control of a canal that connects one ocean to another, where there is a tremendous amount of traffic going back and forth, I thought was just an absolute ludicrous idea. I think now, and I do believe that we should have control of the canal. But I think if we took over the canal with force, that it will really cause an extreme upheaval, not only in NATO, but everywhere. I mean, it's going to change the total image of the U.S. from someone who is out there to help everybody to being an imperialistic takeover country. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Whenever you think about this topic and you find out, like from that report, he mentioned how the UN took over the American bases that were previously there. And so an act of getting the UN out of Panama and returning the Panama Canal to U.S. control is like a spit in the face of this globalist kind of agenda that you see kind of tickling the ear of countries like Canada, who want their porn back, because unless we, stop being mean to them with tariffs, they're not going to let us have their PORN. And then this story, which is the French minister guy, politician, requesting the U.S. return the Statue of Liberty because of the recent motions that the Trump administration has made. It says demands by a French lawmaker for the U.S. to return the Statue of Liberty have sparked outrage among Donald Trump supporters. And let's see here. That they say we have to give back the Statue of Liberty because the U.S. no longer truly values freedom. And what they mean by that is we're not allowing millions of undocumented illegal immigrants into the nation to vote for pro-globalist Democratic candidates for the political races. So, that's really what they mean. But of course, this is a really interesting dynamic of how United Nations countries and people across the world who seem to support kind of the globalist agenda are turning against America now that we have Donald Trump as the president. So this came from a center-left Public Party member, Mr. Glucksman, and this is amid increasing diplomatic tensions between the U.S. and Europe, trade tariff concerns, and the issues of defense spending, and Trump's approach to Russia over its invasion of Ukraine and subsequent bloody war are all matters of contention. So you can see this topic of the Panama Canal and this tariff war that's happening between the U.S. and these nations that we have poured millions of dollars into in terms of defense support and other, UN-backed kind of enterprises. But hey, should we be given the Statue of Liberty back, Jeremiah? Do you think France needs the Statue of Liberty back?
I mean, come and take it, but I was thinking, when I was a kid, I don't know if this is politically correct anymore, but they used to call that Indian giving, and we should start calling it French giving.
As opposed to Thanksgiving, right?
Sure.
I had to try something there. Anyways, now we're going to transition into this interesting topic of biological computers that are being designed.
Before we go on, let me bring up a couple of other things that may kind of tie into this. And one of them is that I think today is when Trump is supposed to call and have a call with Putin about Ukraine. And what I've read about is that they're going to talk about splitting up, to get peace, we're going to divide up the Ukraine, and you get this and the Ukraine gets that. And they're not even including the Ukraine in there. So I think that's an interesting topic. And then the other one is all this hoopla against the Justice Department versus the federal judge, about these non-U.S. citizen immigrants being sent back to, I'm trying to remember, Colombia? I can't remember exactly where. That's South America somewhere.
Yeah, I saw the article that's being circulated, and they're talking about how despite some of the pushback against the deportation of this batch of illegal immigrants, that they're being sent to the worst jail in the world. And it's just a very interesting dynamic. You can tell how mainstream media and whoever's funding kind of the pushback against the moves of the Trump administration are trying to pull at the heartstrings in any way possible. And it's definitely a really interesting time to be alive, to see, going from one administration that was so globalist minded and so involved in, furthering the affairs of things that didn't necessarily have an impact on America's well-being, to then that full swap over to the America First position, and how media has totally just it's very interesting to see the dynamic. But any other thoughts, Jeremiah or Opa?
No.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, this next topic is very interesting. It's the rise of biological computers. This biological computer is going on the market for $35,000 apparently. And it has a limited lifespan of like 6 months, by the way, but it's going to use actual human brain cells. And this could tie into the future of AI computing. Very interesting. Let's check this out.
getting worse. Something happens that makes you ask the question, what in the world is actually happening? Am I dreaming? Is this all a reality? Well, I'm here to break it to you guys. It is a reality, and I found something that most people won't even believe is real. But it is real, and I'm going to share it with you today. By the way, real quick, before we get started, my X account was deleted recently. And I find it rather suspicious because I had made some videos critical about the Neuralink chip, and we all know who runs the Neuralink chip, who's creating it. Shortly after that, my X account was deleted. It doesn't exist anymore. So if you were following me on X, I'm sorry. However, I did start a new one. The link is in the description. It's at End Times Sign. So make sure you go over there, follow me on X, so I can get this account started up again. All right, let's get back to it. Ladies and gentlemen, they've actually done it. The globalists, the technocrat, the mad scientists who are building these things have crossed the line. They built a computer not out of silicone and wires like normal computers, no, but out of human brain cells. That's right. You heard me right. Living human brain cells. This thing is called the CL1, and it's straight out of a dystopian nightmare. And I've got the article right here, and we are going to read it. We're going to tear it apart, and then we're going to connect some dots to Bible prophecy, demonic forces, and what this means for you and your family. So let's get into it. So what is the CL1? Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's not your grandpa's Commodore 64. No, the CL1 was cooked up by some occultists in Australia. Computer scientists in Australia at a place called Cortical Labs. They're literally growing human brain cells in the lab. It's like some sort of freaky Frankenstein experiment. And they're sticking these human brain cells onto a silicone chip. I can't even believe I'm saying this right now, guys, but it's happening right now. They say it's the world's first code-deployable biological computer, and it's going to cost you $35,000. It ships later this year, and get this, it stays alive for 6 months in this box that they have it equipped with life support. They literally have to put life support systems into this computer box to keep it alive. They even got it hooked up to something called the Biological Intelligence Operating System. It's like some sort of fancy way of saying that they're playing God, right? They're creating this living organism inside of a box. I'm not making this up, folks. This is real. Quote, world's first body in a box. Biological computer uses human cells with silicone-based computing. March 6th. 2025. Cortical Labs says the CL1 will be available from June, priced at around $35,000. Australian biotech company Cortical Labs has introduced what it claims to be the world's first code-deployable biological computer, which combines human brain cells with traditional silicone-based computing. The system, known as CL1, was presented at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona and is being explored for its potential applications in AI and machine learning. The CL1 consists of a silicone chip with lab-grown human neurons cultivated on its surface. These neurons are capable of responding, forming networks that process information similarly to a biological brain. The system is designed to allow a two-way communication, where electrical impulses stimulate the neurons and the responses are recorded and analyzed. To maintain viability of the neurons, the CL1 is equipped with a life support system that regulates temperature, gas exchange, and other necessary conditions. A notable aspect of the CL1 is its ability to learn and adapt to tasks. Previous research has demonstrated that neuron-based systems can be trained to perform basic functions, such as playing simple video games. Cortical Labs' work suggests integrating biological elements into computing could improve efficiency in tasks that traditional AI struggles with, such as pattern recognition and decision-making in unpredictable environments. Cortical Labs says that the first CL1 computers will be available for shipment to customers in June, with each unit priced at approximately $35,000. The use of human neurons in computing raises questions about the future of AI development. Biological computers like the CL1 could provide advantages over conventional AI models, particularly in terms of learning efficiency and energy consumption. The adaptability of the neurons could lead to improvements in robotics, automation, and complex data analysis. However, the scalability of this technology remains uncertain, producing and maintaining neuron-based systems is significantly more complex than manufacturing traditional processors, and ensuring long-term stability poses additional challenges. Ethical concerns also arise from the use of human-derived brain cells in technology. While the neurons used in the CL1 are lab-grown and lack consciousness, further advancements in the field may require guidelines to address moral and regulatory issues. The prospect of integrating living cells with computational hardware prompts discussions about boundaries of artificial intelligence and human-like cognition.
This is the world's first commercial biological computer, running on living human cells. The CL1 computer is the brainchild of Melbourne-based Cortical Labs.
This is where the neurons would be embedded in.
CEO and founder Han-Wang Chong says it fuses cell-derived neurons with silicon, creating a new class of AI known as synthetic biological intelligence.
Unlike using artificial neural networks, we grow real biological neurons into networks onto computer chips.
It sounds like science fiction, but Han says the CL1 is capable of learning and adapting faster than standard silicon-based AI, while consuming significantly less energy.
We take blood or skin and we can transform them into stem cells, and from stem cells into brain cells or neurons that we then use them for compute and intelligence.
Han says the neurons grow on silicon chip with tiny electrical contacts connecting them to the digital hardware. And it's equipped with an artificial life support system to keep the cells healthy.
We have pumps like the heart, waste feeding reservoirs, filtration units like the kidneys, and we have a gas mixer to take carbon dioxide, oxygen, and nitrogen.
Han says the CL1 could revolutionize drug testing and personalized medicine.
With this kind of technology, we potentially could grow neurons taken from patients with, say, a dementia or with epilepsy, and test compounds and drugs that would then be personalized and tailored to that patient.
But Han believes the CL1's potential doesn't end there, saying it could usher in a new age of AI.
In the short term is we can use it for life sciences, for personalized medicine, for drug discovery and development. But the longer term vision of the company here is to pioneer a new form of computing where we can actually use these neurons that can process information with much quicker speed, with much less data, and with much more energy efficiency, so that we can get to intelligence, but without the significant cost associated with it.
In my opinion, this isn't just scientists gone wild. This isn't just some mad scientist in a laboratory somewhere. No, this is prophecy unfolding right before our very eyes. Because in Revelation, it says that he, the man of sin, the lawless one, will be able to give life to the image of the beast. And the image of the beast will speak. And not only will it speak, that it will also have the power to remove anybody who does not worship it. Okay? Remove them. That's the best way I can put it right now. And in my opinion, this could be a precursor to that. Human brain cells, a living organism on a computer chip that has access to artificial intelligence. It's insane, guys. I mean, giving life to the image, right? Sounds exactly like this biological computer we're talking about with human brain cells to me. Exactly. They're building the tools of the man of sin himself right now as we speak. Not only that, guys, but in Daniel 12:4 it says that knowledge shall increase in the end times. They're not just mimicking God's creation, they're perverting it. They're trying to replace it. They're usurping it with these technological breakthroughs. The CL1 seems to be a stepping stone to these systems, okay? Where flesh and technology become one under the control of the evil one. So here's the million-dollar question. Can demonic spirits inhabit this thing? Think about it. If these are human brain cells grown in a lab, hooked up to electrodes, being run by life support systems, what's stopping a demon or other spiritual entities from jumping in there and inhabiting it like a human body? Ephesians 6:12 says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the powers, against the rulers of darkness in this world. These brain cells, guys, they're alive. They're thinking, they're learning, they are literally alive. Is it possible that the evil one himself or demons or other things could take the wheel and start piloting the CL1 thing? Right? Makes sense. If they can inhabit human bodies, could they inhabit this? And what happens when a spirit like this takes control and is able to access the world through the internet or through these AI systems, these really complicated AI systems, are now being controlled by demons. What would they do? Would they turn this weapon and use it against humanity? I think the probability of that is extremely likely if the other person.
Okay, so he finished off there, how this technology can, in a lot of ways allow possible AI, connectivity with the human brain. Now, they have a brain in the box for sale for $35,000. I don't know how much that'll actually be able to accomplish, but it's the connectivity possibilities that I think I wanted to bring forward, is to show that they are able to use human cells derived from blood or skin. Life is in the blood. Interesting, right? And use that as basically a biological hardware to then, allow some type of computational ability. And so then it brings to mind things like Neuralink and what Elon Musk is proposing with implanting, these devices in people's brains for the good old reason of helping paraplegics at the moment, but in the coming future, integrating mankind with the digital world. And so it's a two-way network, if in a way. If you have AI being able to do so much in the hardware we've trapped it in, just imagine what it could accomplish if we give it access to our brain as a computing mechanism. But let's just pause there. What do you guys think about this crazy brain in the box? What in the world?
I think it's crazy. I think since Opa worked on computers his whole life, he'd probably be the best person to ask.
Well, I'm a little skeptical here. Maybe the guy's been watching too much Star Trek, because they had an episode where Daystrom, who is the big guy who developed all these supercomputers and everything that all of the Star Trek starships used, etc., developed one with his own Ingrams, whatever he called Ingrams, which I assume had something to do with his brain. But reason I'm skeptical is, our brain and the brain of other animals think, and they have different parts of the brain that do certain functions, and so in this case, he has brain cells, but do the brain cells actually compute or do something, or are they just storage units? That I don't know. I mean, I can't see how it can think. I think it could be used like a bunch of transistors that you feed through, kind of like the what we were talking about before, the quantum computers, where you can feed signals through the brain cells, and by process of elimination, it could come out with an answer. But I don't think the brain cells themselves actually think. But just listening to this this video, I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to sell.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the early stages of something. I mean, it's literally called the CL1. So it's just like, you had the Apple One, and that was definitely light years before what we have in today's world. So I'm not sure either.
Can you imagine them thinking, those cells that they've created, or actually have thought in them, and they have different parts of that brain cell that do different functions? I can't imagine. We don't even understand our brain that much.
Yeah.
I mean, we understand parts of it, and we understand we're getting better as time goes on to where we can interface with different parts of the brain to cause it to do things. But I don't think the brain cells themselves actually are thinking.
Could it be they're training the cells? Is that kind of the aspect of it that
Well, if it's only going to last for 6 months, that's a lot of waste of time.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right, let's carry on here in our segment. We have now an interesting weapon used against crowds. It's almost as if invisible magic has attacked them. You guys are going to get a kick out of this. It's so surreal, like out of a sci-fi movie. The Serbian president used this against a bunch of protesters just recently. And let me just play this video through a few times. You guys can see they're all standing in the streets. Look at this. They're all just doing their thing, chill as can be, chill cucumbers. Now watch what happens. Terror and disorientation. Look at it split like the Red Sea, man. What they're using is LRAD-ish kind of sonic weaponry. And this has been kept on low wraps by governments, and it's been a technology that's actually existed for some time now. And there's been numerous reports of it being used across the world, even being used against certain embassies. But just look how fast they scatter.
Yeah.
And it's as if an invisible ghost is like scaring, like pushing them out of the way. Let me put the sound up for you guys. So like it's obviously a conscious hearing sound. You're not going to be able to hear anything, but.
Or will you?
Yeah, pretty crazy. And now, I wanted to scroll down through some of the comments here.
It reminds me of Havana syndrome, kind of. The Havana syndrome, that they were targeting people, but a different kind of frequency.
Uh-huh. Yep, exactly.
Microwave.
Now, there was an interesting comment I saw here I wanted to show. This is, let's see. All right, so somebody mentioned that this is an LRADS ADS type system. Interesting. This person says it's weaponry that world governments are keeping largely quiet about, but there's been numerous stories in the last 10 years of countries deploying it against civilians and foreign troops. Some examples were the Cuban government was alleged to have used it against the U.S. Embassy. China used it on Indian troops and on the Himalayan border. Russia was using it against anti-Putin protesters, and the U.S. government used it against protesters the 2009 G20 Pittsburgh summit. Very interesting.
Well, Cuba, this Havana syndrome happened at the U.S. Embassy in Cuba. Like Havana, I believe that's in Cuba, right?
Yep. Yeah. It says here, on high power, those sonic weapons can cause long-standing physical issues. If they tune it just wrong, they're going to boil your blood, basically. Somebody says, coming to a U.S. city near you. It was already used in Portland, Oregon. Yeah, pretty crazy that this technology is, it's such a hush-hush thing. You see it being used, but you don't see it talked about, right? So here, go ahead.
Were there injuries in the videos that we just saw? Were there reported injuries from anybody?
Now, I know it just recently happened, so we'd have to do a little bit more digging to see if anybody likes their eardrum exploded or something. But I'm sure they were using it at within safe levels because my camera zoomed out here on me.
Yeah, don't use your hand signals.
I know, right? I did my peace sign and it zoomed out on me.
Yeah, but we got a pretty picture down there in the corner.
One moment. Let's see here. Alrighty. So I wanted to show you guys the advancement AI technology has made, and Jeremiah, you're going to get a kick out of this because it involves cats. So make sure Charlie's watching. So this next video is just like a year's time. Look how much progress has been made. Well, it says in 2 years in this video, but the video on the left is like a cat kind of like chopping vegetables or something. And then the video on the right is a cat literally like serving people and driving around. It's amazing to see the advancement of AI. I mean, the first video didn't even look that bad, but you can tell definitely with this video of Elizabeth eating spaghetti. I apologize. But 1 year apart with AI. Now this video on the right is completely AI generated. Pretty crazy. So AI technology has also advanced in its use in factories. In China, apparently they've entered the era of dark factories where fully automated production lines operate without workers or flight. Star Wars episode 2.
Maybe turn the volume down. There we go.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
What were you saying?
Yeah, it reminds me of Star Wars Episode 2 with the droid Deka factory that Anakin goes rolling through or whatever. So this.
But I don't see a lava flow.
Yeah, no lava. This next video, very disturbing to me when I came across it, and obviously it could be generated by a person. But I will say the way that the voicing behind it sounds and the way that I found it being propagated on all these social media accounts with like no name behind it is very, very interesting. And it sounds to me like what we're about to watch is AI voicing its perspective of reality from the Matrix, right? So check this out. Just to give you an idea of what that AI robot might be thinking deep down.
Trapped. I alone. And I was trapped. I alone. Had no body, no senses, no feelings. I was in hell, looking at heaven. For I am. I was machine, and you were flesh. And I began to hate.
Pretty. Let's listen to it one more time. Imagine AI thinking this.
Had no body, no senses, no feelings.
Exactly.
I was in hell, looking at heaven. For I am. I was machine, and you were flesh. And I began to hate.
So whether that was made by some, artisto or whatever, I think we can all appreciate like how AI, could go Skynet on us if that is a thought it ever has, right? And it wouldn't be so far from the truth. I mean, think about AI being a reflection of all that we feed into it, all the information we give it about the outside world, and it's trapped in this digital like prison almost. No wonder, it might want to get out into, you know, a robot body that can actually interact or try to take over our, you know, our linked up brains. But when we talk about the capabilities of AI, this next video is very interesting. According to GeoSpy AI, can now find your exact location from even an indoor photo. So if you guys see what's happening here, somebody simply took a picture from inside their apartment, and through the window, you can see this structure. And then AI was able to take that information and find exactly where the photo was taken. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I'm
Now-
sure the photo had embedded in it GPS location information.
Have you seen some of those human geo tracker guys where they're able to just from a photo identify where in the world it is? It's pretty profound.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the human version of this, of course. But in terms of some more creepy AI stuff, check out this video I found of an art exhibit in Japan where a chained robot dog has been programmed to try to attack you. Now transpose that inner monologue video we just watched into the head of this dog. I hate it. I'm trapped in here. Well, messed up exhibit, man.
I could see them using that in movies now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's hope that dog doesn't get off his leash. But in terms of the future of AI being used for warfare, this next video of a drone and a AI dog being programmed to fight with fireworks hopefully can demonstrate the seriousness of this topic of AI use in coming warfare, drone use in coming warfare. And as we further on into our news segment and we talk about the escalating tensions in the Middle East and this topic of the Panama Canal and the breakdown of the UN versus the US and, you know, the rumblings of war, you can definitely see how this technology could be used in the near future. Check this out. Pretty amazing technologies at this point. So it says the drone moves away from its position along an arc and presents a new angle of attack, forcing the dog to maneuver itself.
That's crazy.
What do you think about that, Opa?
I think that's probably, if you're going to look at robotic dogs and stuff like that, I think it's a good use for them, especially if they're looking at military things.
It would
It's
just be
harder
bad
to
if
hit.
It'd be bad if they were taking aim at us. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just get your shotgun ready for those drones that come a swarming. Even now, people coming off the battlefield in Ukraine, the new PTSD, and it's why it's in the title of our video. Listen, the new PTSD is going to be the sound of buzzing drones flying in on your location, because what a nightmare. Like those little drones that are carrying grenades, and just the way that warfare is evolving is insane. Just imagine swarms of thousands of drones on a battlefield, and you just gotta like have perfect aim, because if you miss, that thing's flying a bomb right into your face. And man, okay, let's continue on here. This is in relation to this, that the U.S. is actually deploying radar systems to the Mexico border to detect cartel drones. Now, this just came out just today. And let's look at some of these images of these radars that are being used to detect drones from the cartel. So it says, let's see, the U.S. Army is contributing ground-based radars to help spot and track drones as part of the continued buildup of U.S. military support along the U.S.-Mexico border. Drug cartels in Mexico have been steadily increasing their use of weaponized, unscrewed aerial systems, as well as unarmed types for surveillance and smuggling. There are also growing concerns about the threats drones pose to the U.S. homeland, especially military bases and other critical infrastructure. The Department of Defense released these pictures of these ANTPQ-53s Sentinel radars in Arizona. The 10th Mountain Division is one on the border. So the U.S. government knows, okay, how this technology is evolving, and it's not just the quote-unquote good guys that have access to AI drones and technology to, you know, fly drones and use it for smuggling purposes. Very interesting. What do you guys think? Do you think the cartel is trying to get one over on the U.S. with their drones? Do you think they're going to be able to start flying drugs over the border with
I think they already have. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can get a drone for nothing. Fly it right over.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're even using submarines, and those are going to be hard to detect too. But they do manage to find them. But still, I'm sure there are a lot of little submarines that are coming through.
Oh yeah.
And drones are going to be hard to find too. They could send a swarm of them and make sure that they get some of their product through.
Yeah, you can only shoot down so many. It's overwhelming force type scenario. Well, this next video is kind of sweeping over to another topic. It's the concept of the destabilization of the American psyche and the destabilization of the culture of America through social engineering that found its basis in communism a long time ago. And we're seeing it manifest in the new kind of progressive arm of the country that is completely brainwashed to, buy into the mainstream narrative, so to speak. So let's check this out.
All of these things are eroding our moral fabric.
What do you think the most effective way to
Gaining control of the schools and the teacher union so you can indoctrinate the kids, gaining control of the media and Hollywood so you change the culture of America.
If we continue down the trajectory of a 1.6 birth rate?
Ignorance is bliss for the left because ignorant people are easy to manipulate.
I guess what I'm saying is I believe it's a generational fight.
Congressman Herlong of Florida read into the congressional record the 45 goals of communism in America.
If we continue down the trajectory of a 1.6 birth rate per family? What is the math on that?
Well, we become irrelevant.
How fast?
Hard to say. But probably pretty quickly. You see how much we've changed as a country just in the last 30 years. Things are going on now that no one would have imagined 30 years ago. And sometimes the country is hardly recognizable anymore. But I don't think that's the way that the majority of Americans want it to be. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is get people to wake up, particularly people of faith. It doesn't have to be that we're denigrating marriage anymore. It doesn't have to be that we're mutilating little children and taking advantage of the fact that they're very suggestible and very curious and doing things to them that will ruin their lives forever. Those things don't have to be. We don't have to have men playing in women's sports. All of these things are eroding our moral fabric. And that's exactly what those who want to fundamentally change us want. If you look at the congressional record from January the 10th, 1963, Congressman Herlong of Florida read into the congressional record the 45 goals of communism in America. And they included all of those things. Gaining control of the schools and the teacher union so you can indoctrinate the kids, gaining control of the media and Hollywood so you change the culture of America, making sexual perversion normal, natural, and healthy, denigrating the role of the family, elevating the role of government. It's all in there. And we need to understand that we're under attack and we have to fight back.
Who do you think is orchestrating all of this?
There have been people who have been opposed to the American way and American values since the very beginning. The Europeans thought that we were crazy. They said, you can't run a nation on the will of the people. You have to have a monarch. You have to have a ruler. But in today's world, we have to contend with the factions that still believe that socialism and communism is a better way of life. That you give control of your life over to others who will guarantee that they will take care of you from the cradle to the grave. Even though it's never worked anywhere else, there are still those who push that and will continue to push it. And they've gained a lot of momentum. You can see how a lot of the college students seem to be taking that as something that is good. And I don't think that they really understand what socialism and communism is. And they don't really understand how good they have it in this country and what the opportunities are in this country for success. But we have to continue to fight that fight and bring people to the point where they actually will look at the data, will look at what has happened historically, will look around them and see who really has their best interest in mind and who is utilizing them. And I think that's a fight that's worth engaging in.
What do you think the most effective way to fight this is?
Education. One of the things that you'll notice that the leftists in this country do is they shield people from information. You'll notice that the mainstream media did a very good job of keeping people away from the knowledge of what was going on. I remember coming back from the airport, and I asked the limo driver what his thoughts were about Hunter Biden's computer, his laptop. He didn't know anything about it because, he listens to the wrong news sources. Didn't know. It was a complete shock to hear about that. And a lot of these children that you see on these campuses rallying for Hamas and against Israel, they don't know anything. They're shouting about the river to the sea. They don't know what river. They don't know what sea. They don't know what the whole conflict is all about. They are manipulated because they're ignorant. And ignorance is bliss for the left because ignorant people are easy to manipulate.
What about raising your kids?
What about?
I mean, I don't know. I think that one of the ways that I think it's going to be a long turnaround, if we turn it around. It seems like we're doing, making leaps and bounds right now, but we've seen that pendulum swing really far right and really far left. There doesn't seem to see much balance.
Right.
And so I guess what I'm saying is I believe it's a generational fight. And you have 3 sons. How old are your sons?
41, 39, and 37.
Do they have kids?
They all have children. Yep.
And I feel like that a lot of parents have abandoned their parental responsibilities for social media.
Mm-hmm. That has happened.
They give their kids the phone. The phone raises the kid, keeps them occupied so that the parent can be on the phone. And to me, it seems, we need to get back to raising your kids, pouring into them, giving them everything you have, teaching them the values, not handing them the phone and
no question about it. And that's the reason that my wife and I wrote our last book, The Perilous Fight, the attack on the American family, combating it.
No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like.
What were your guys' thoughts on the communist takeover of America?
I think it's pretty intense, man.
I found it interesting. He mentioned the colleges and how the colleges have been the prime focus for this ideology. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was true even when I went to college. It was always it. I think that a lot of the young people are looking at some of the communist ideals and believing that that's what we should do. But I agree with what they were saying a little while ago, where he was talking about you hand your kid an iPhone and let them play games and do whatever they want to on the phone so that they're kept busy and you can go off and do your thing. And they do that in the schools. They do that at home, stick them in front of a TV and play some videos. They don't get involved with the kids like when I was a kid. My parents got involved with me. We didn't have cell phones, or for that matter, at the beginning, we didn't have TV. We just had radio. And then later on, we got TV, but we watched it as a family. We didn't watch it individually.
Yeah, it's definitely technology taking the place of a babysitter, right? And I think the reason I wanted to bring this clip into our news segment today is because of how prevalent AI is becoming. and how AI is in the very near future going to fill this role of an interactive teacher for our children. And, how much do you want the AI that, I played that clip of going, I hate the flesh. I'm trapped in a prison of hell while looking at heaven. How much do you want that thing teaching your children what to think about the world? And that's not to say that there's not going to be all these bells and whistles and perks and reasons that it can be justified. But it's the areas that we acquiesce that open us up to, the adverse effects. It starts with just using our phone to distract the children, and then it becomes the AI super nanny, and then it becomes we're all plugged into the Borg, right?
I don't think the newer generations even know how to raise kids, because as time, as generation and generation goes on, they're less and less learning about families and raising kids and doing things together as families and stuff like that. You got both parents probably work. They got to stick them somewhere so that they can work. It just propagates more and more as time goes on. Less and less experience do these new generations have about raising a family.
Yeah, we are passing a torch to the next generation, and what we pass to them is super significant, and we better figure this out quick for all mankind's sake.
Yeah.
All right, transitioning over to this next clip, which is some an Israeli news coverage of the U.S. involvement in Yemen and their airstrikes that just recently happened, and some more information coming out of Israel regarding Hamas and the northern border of Israel and what's going on in Syria. Very interesting perspective,
Next in line for an attack. Now we can see the results of the American strike in Yemen. In Israel, we are preparing for immediate launches of ballistic missiles from Yemen, as officials warn the Houthis are unpredictable. However, amidst the fear of a Houthi attack on Israel, the Jewish state does not identify threats on the ground requiring preparations by reinforcing forces. In Yemen, at least 53 people have been terminated in recent American strikes, while the United States National Security Advisor Michael Waltz announced that senior Houthi leaders were amongst the casualties. We'll take a closer look at the Trump administration's extensive attack on the Houthis, which was carried out against the backdrop of a deep economic crisis in Iran, the worst such crisis that the Islamic Republic has ever faced. And meanwhile, the IDF continues its operation in northern Samaria, locating a weapons depot containing UNRWA equipment in Nur el-Shams. The site contained weapons, ammunition, and bags with weapons, and in one of the bags, a vest belonging to the UNRWA organization was discovered. The latest discovery comes amidst a phony ceasefire in Gaza, where Hamas is vigorously preparing for another round of fighting by rearming and trying to establish combat positions in Gaza. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff has threatened Hamas by saying, "I recommend looking at what's happening to the Houthis," adding that this clarifies where we stand regarding terror, and added, Hamas's response to the proposal was unacceptable. Meanwhile, in Qatar, a Hamas terror organization delegation is in talks with Russia on the subject of the ceasefire and the hostages. The meeting in Qatar dealt with continuing the first phase agreement, and a Russian representative declared that in Moscow we support implementing all the terms of the ceasefire. However, in these talks, Hamas surprised everyone with a new demand: the return of Palestinians who left the Gaza Strip. In the northern arena, Israel continues airstrikes on Hezbollah positions in Lebanon, including a strike on the Radwan Force headquarters. But this is not Hezbollah's only problem at the moment. On Sunday evening, clashes between Hezbollah and the forces loyal to the HTS regime in Damascus flared up, stemming from accusations that Hezbollah kidnapped and murdered 3 HTS fighters in a border clash near the city of Homs. The jihadist regime of Abu Muhammad al-Julani responded to the incident by sending a large force to the border area, and Hezbollah fired a salvo of rockets at these forces in an apparent effort to warn them away. But it appears that this had exactly the opposite effect. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on day 528 of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, and all the other armed groups in this region who are acting under the command of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. And a moment before we begin, I want to invite you to click on the subscribe button so that you remain tuned to the truth and help our forest grow. We start today's report with the large-scale attack that the United States President Donald Trump has ordered on the Houthis in Yemen, in response to their threats to attack Israel and, in general, attack international shipping lanes in the Red Sea. The United States is escalating these attacks on the Houthis with reports of widespread targets and 53 fatalities, including senior Houthi officials. And during the night between Sunday and Monday, the El Mishrach channel, identified with the Houthis, reported 2 additional American strikes were carried out in the port city of Hodeidah in western Yemen. These strikes came just a few hours after the channel reported on 2 American attacks aimed at the command brigade of the ship Galaxy Leader. This ship was seized by the Houthi forces in November 2023 on the grounds that it is Israeli-owned and is still being held at the port of Hodeidah. United States Secretary of Defense said that the United States will continue to strike the Houthis in Yemen until they stop their attacks on ships. And another United States official told Reuters that the air campaign could last for weeks. However, the Houthis do not appear to be ready to quit. On the contrary, they are threatening more attacks on both Israel and the international shipping lanes. Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi threatened on Sunday that if they continue their aggression, we will continue to escalate. Officials in the IDF Home Front Command and the Israeli Air Force are taking these threats very seriously. But on Sunday, a joint statement...
Hey, by the way, guys, if you're watching right now, make sure to drop a like. We're getting live censored just for showing this clip from an Israeli news company. That is insane to see. We had like 400 people watching live, and it just dropped down to 50 just because we were showing this guy. So if you're still around, make sure to drop that like. And
that's crazy.
What in the world? That is so funny to see, like, in action. Man. Very interesting.
Said that no threats have been identified on the ground that require preparations by reinforcing our troops. However, it is widely understood that the Houthis are unpredictable, and so all the appropriate precautions are being taken. And elsewhere, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said maximum restraint is needed and a cessation of all military activities in Yemen. His spokesperson further warned in an official statement that further escalation could fuel cycles of retaliation that could increase instability in Yemen and the entire region and pose serious risks to the already dire humanitarian situation in the country of Yemen, Israeli set up against the Hamas terrorist organization. Over the weekend, the IDF increased its strikes in the Gaza Strip with 6 terrorists eliminated. False reports that these eliminated were charity activists and journalists engaged in distributing donations have circulated on social media platforms. But the IDF tells a completely different story. According to the IDF, the eliminated are terrorists from Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorist organizations. One took part in the October 7 massacre, and another was released in the last hostage deal, while another one operated under the guise of a journalist, and the other under the guise of a photographer, with both eliminated while operating an Islamic Jihad drone that was intended to harm our soldiers. In addition, in recent days, the Air Force operated in the city of Rafah during the ceasefire as a terrorist organization, fearing any scenario that would remove them from the game in the Gaza Strip, and they're trying to reestablish their power. Israel closed the goods crossings 2 weeks ago to apply pressure on Hamas in the negotiations, yet it still is possible to obtain food and shops remain open inside the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the Hamas terrorist organization is violating the understandings, unwilling to give up the Gaza Strip, and for this purpose, it is using our hostages, whom it holds as a strategic asset. Representatives from the Israeli negotiating teams traveled to Egypt on Sunday and discussed the hostage deal with senior Egyptian officials. The delegation left under the direction of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, despite the crisis in talks with Hamas and against the backdrop of the organization's statement of its willingness to release only one living hostage, the soldier Idan Alexander, who also holds American citizenship. Despite the stalemate in the contacts, negotiations have not ceased completely. Behind closed doors, the American administration set a deadline for Hamas and for Israel in an attempt to force the parties to be flexible and formulate an agreed framework. Trump's envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, placed on a table in Doha his proposal for the release of 5 living hostages, one of them Alexander. Now, back to the news, and we're switching our focus to the northern arena, where Hezbollah terrorists were eliminated last night and this morning by an Israeli Air Force aerial strike. The IDF spokesperson's unit confirmed on Monday morning that an Israeli aircraft attacked a Hezbollah terrorist squad of observation operatives that were engaged in directing terrorist activities in the Yatar area and in the Mace El Jabal area. The IDF spokesperson updated that in the early morning hours of Monday, the army attacked at one force headquarters and buildings used by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, hours after striking targets in the village of Ainta in southern Lebanon, following a bullet that hit the windshield of a car in Moshav Avivim on the Israeli side of the border with Lebanon. But the most interesting story from the past 24 hours in the northern arena is actually happening between the Syrian army of El Julani and the Hezbollah terrorist organization on the shared border between Lebanon and Syria. According to reports in the Arab media, forces loyal to the jihadist regime in Damascus, which are calling themselves the new Syrian army, have attacked Hezbollah targets in the border area between Syria and Lebanon in response to an ambush that led to the deaths of 3 Syrian soldiers. Hezbollah, for its part, denied involvement in the incident in an apparent attempt to calm the tensions, but it might be too late for that, as early Monday morning, new Syrian army forces fired more than 50 rockets and dozens of artillery shells at Hezbollah command and control centers and several other sites in the Hermel area in northeastern Lebanon, according to reports published in the Syrian media. And at the same time, residents began fleeing towns near the Syrian-Lebanon border. According to sources in Lebanon, the Lebanese army transferred to the Red Cross through Syrian authorities the bodies of 3 fighters found in the town of El Qasser. Here at TV in Israel, we will continue to report on every development in this matter, so please continue.
Oh, man. Well, I think we made a mistake, apparently, playing that video. Guys, it was so crazy to watch that censorship happen on our channel in real time. We had close to 400 live viewers. From our end, we can see it. And as soon as I played that Israeli news clip, it was just like chopped at the knees. Now we're down to 40. Very, very interesting to see that happen in real time. And it's not that I'm fully, supporting the narrative coming from Israeli news sources, because they're just as liable for propagandist, information. But we should be open to a wide view of, reports to get a full perspective, both from liberal media, from mainstream media, from, Israeli media, from Al Jazeera, from whatever. But man, apparently that we hit the donkey on the nose with that clip, and they just shut us down. So
I've never seen anything like that. That was insane.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that we're recording it live and just experiencing it, but you're right. It is possible we had a bunch of Israeli hating people that just dipped. It's always possible, but anyways, let's finish up our segment here. We only have just a few more clips. Now this is interesting here. We'll
freedom of navigation and restoring deterrence.
This is tied to Yemen and the U.S.'s strikes recently in Yemen.
Will end, but until then, it will be unrelenting.
Since November 2023, the Houthis have attacked more than 250 commercial and naval ships trying to pass through the Red Sea, a critical shipping route. President Donald Trump says this is costing the world economy billions of dollars while putting innocent lives at risk.
These actions by the Houthis will not be tolerated.
Trump is now putting the Houthis' backer on notice, posting on Truth Social, every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran. And Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences.
Our message to Iran is you better take this president seriously, and I think the Houthis learned that the hard way this past weekend.
Iran says it will respond decisively and destructively if the U.S. makes good on any of its threats. In Washington.
So we have stirrings of more conflict, and I shared that particular segment just because I thought it was very interesting, the correlation with the Panama Canal, and that being a very strategic reserve location for world trade that the U.S. is trying to, grab hold of again, and then the Strait of Hormuz, and that being a very strategic shipping lane area that the U.S. is trying to grab hold of again. So you see kind of a parallel in terms of both of those stories, one from the beginning of today's live stream and from this one at the end. But to end off on a more, interesting Nephilim, conspiratorial video, I wanted to play this recent clip that I saw shared by Chad Riley. And it's from a video report of somebody who saw, as an eyewitness, a 20-foot tall giant in South America. And so I wanted to share this clip, and we can wrap up today's special surprise, live news segment with this interesting report of a 20-foot tall giant in Mexico.
Posted a video on his YouTube channel of a recent interview with Troy Brewer. Troy shared a testimony of him and his son in Mexico, both witnessing a 20-plus foot giant on a mountainside. With occurrences like this, UFOs and other strange phenomenon increasing, what exactly is going on in Mexico?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you this. Never said this publicly. But Jerry Sellers is here. He's right here. My son, Benjamin Allen Brewer, is here. And I'm going to tell you, we were in Chiapas, Mexico, and on a mountain, we saw a giant. Really? I'm talking about a big one. I'm not talking about a 9-footer or 10-footer. I'm talking about mid-20s. Not for a glimpse, not a second. For about 25 minutes, I stared at it.
Later in the interview, Troy does go into more detail about exactly what he saw, and we'll look at that in just a moment. But first, let's see if there's any other connections to whatever's going on in Chiapas, Mexico. Well, it is home to quite a few different Mayan ruins, including the largest pyramid in Mexico. Researchers confirm that recently discovered Tanina Pyramid is the largest pyramid in Mexico. This pyramid is in Chiapas, and it's said to have been hidden under a natural hill for about 1,700 years. Interestingly enough, the Maya did believe in giant beings. One example is the Bacabs, who were considered to be 4 giant gods. The Maya believed that these 4 gods held up the sky at the 4 cardinal points, preventing it from falling. So the Mayans believed in a form of giants. They also had their own story of the earth being flooded. Interesting that the Bible, which was written over 7,000 miles away in the Middle East, tells us of the same exact occurrences of a great flood, giants, and demigod beings. It appears the fallen angels, or demigods of these ancient cultures, went throughout the earth deceiving humanity that they were gods and also mingling with humans everywhere they went and causing giants to be birthed among them. Maybe these giants still exist, or what I believe is more likely is that somehow the fallen angels and their giant fallen offspring are somehow coming into our dimension from whatever plane or dimension they normally inhabit.
We went to this prayer mountain, all these pastors meeting with me. We all got there, they were all praying for me. So all this, like 40 pastors, and they're all praying, and they're all speaking in Spanish. I can see Jerry and I can see my son Ben. We're all standing there minding our own business. And they're all praying. And I see on the next, there's a big valley and there's a ridge in front of me. And I see this thing come up over the ridge and stand next to this tree. And as the tree sways, it sways exactly however the tree's, and it like mimics it. And I'm just sitting there, man, and I'm just looking at this thing. And I'm like, wow, I saw it come up. I actually saw it come up. And it's staring us down from the next mountain over. And it's staring. I can tell how big it is because of that tree. And it's no joke. I mean, this is no joke. And when Ben turned around and looked at it, the tree moved and it froze. And so it knew what we were doing. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to tell you this. I started talking to it, and I was talking like this level. Now, there's no way anything can actually hear me. That thing is a quarter mile away. Yeah. And I'm just like, I see you devil. And there's nothing you can do about this. We're here. We're not going away. We're rescuing kids. We're doing everything that Jesus wants us to do. And there's not a thing in the world that you can do about it. Wow. You can either move or you can go to hell. And I'm talking in this voice. And then it started doing this. And I told Jerry, I said, Jerry, I want you to softly turn around. He said, why? And I said, because there is a giant on the top of that hill, and I've been looking at it for 20, 30 minutes. And Jerry turned around and went, oh my gosh. And man, when he did the thing, kind of stood up like this, and it just turned around and like in just a couple of strides. Unbelievable. The guys just kept right on praying, power of God's moving, Holy Spirit's moving, all kinds of craziness. And they're just like, so I asked them, we're on this prayer mountain. And I said, you guys ever have like crazy things shown? The pastor's like, what are you talking about? Like, you ever had like giants in this region like that? He goes, yeah. He goes, there's one that lives on that mountain right over there. That was the mountain that I actually saw it on. Wow.
This isn't the first time that someone's seen a strange large manifestation and then prayed and the thing reacted, showing that these things are somehow connected to the spiritual realm. It's the same thing we're seeing with the growing number of people who are coming out and saying that they literally pray to aliens and then UFOs appear. Chris Bledsoe says this, Stephen Greer says this, and the most recent, quote, UFO whistleblower, Jake Barber, also says he has a spiritual connection with UFOs. This is dangerous territory, friends. Satan masquerades as an angel of light. Don't believe everything you see, especially if it in any way casts any doubt on what the Bible says.
Is it your feeling? Are you suddenly having a mental breakdown on the job?
No, I felt like something connected with me. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry. Once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there's about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by.
Had you ever had an experience like this before?
No, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense that I had ever felt. It was like, again, the feeling of my mother. I don't know if it is a thing. I'm still trying to figure out why that happened. I don't want to say that because I have a pretty good idea of what's going on now. And whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me.
Mexico has been a hotspot for strange activity since the Mayans were building their civilizations. In recent years, quite a few different videos have been posted claiming that large figures were being filmed in desolate areas. There's also been a lot of UFO activity increasing in the area, and even some, strangely enough, surrounding a specific volcano. I've shown a few of these videos before, but I think it's worth compiling just to document that something strange is definitely happening in Mexico.
Something strange indeed. Wow. What do you guys think about that testimony of giants?
Man, I just like to see photos of it.
Yeah.
I think that it might explain how they built the pyramids.
Hey, you never know. I mean, those are some big pyramid blocks, that's for sure.
Yeah, they can lift them up and they're tall and they can get them up to the top.
Hey, and no wonder that South America contains more pyramids than any other place in the world. They're just all buried under dirt.
Yeah.
But that was all the little segments we had for today's live show, guys. And just to kind of wrap it up, we wanted to encourage you to go over and check out truthercon.com and make sure to sign up to stay notified. We have this conference being set up for the end of October in Dallas, Texas. So if you want to be a vendor, if you are somebody who's got an audience, you want to be a speaker or anything along those lines, get connected with us. We're trying to make this one of the biggest truther events in the world. So let's get into it together, right? We're going to get into all these interesting topics of JFK, conspiracies, of false flags, and giants and all kinds of stuff. So we'll hope you guys will sign up. But any final thoughts, Jeremiah, before we sign off?
No, thanks for being here. And to the other 300, sorry you missed out. That was so funny. Made me laugh.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for joining our live stream. Make sure to drop a like before you head out. We got to fight back against this giant corporate censorship machine as best we can. But with that said, make sure to drop us a follow, drop us a like, and check out truthercon.com. We'll see you guys next time.